Welcome back to The Explainer. Today we're jumping straight into a real lab detective story to uncover exactly how scientists track down vital clues hidden right inside our blood. To do this, we're going to follow a complete, frankly fascinating experiment presented by Dr. Chem on bilirubin determination in biological samples. It's a really revealing look at the incredible chemistry happening behind the scenes of your annual checkup. Here is our agenda for today. 1. The mystery of bilirubin. 2. The chemistry of detection. 3. The Jendrassik-Grof method. 4. Manual versus automated processing. 5. Troubleshooting the assays. And 6. The future of biosensors. Section 1. The mystery of bilirubin. So to kick off our investigation, I want you to picture your last blood draw. You're sitting in the chair, the phlebotomist takes a few small vials of dark red liquid, and then, well, they just kind of disappear behind those closed laboratory doors. Ever wonder what actually happens to your blood once it leaves your arm? What sort of chemical interrogations is it subjected to? Well, one of the primary targets they're actively hunting for is bilirubin. Bilirubin is a yellow pigment, specifically a tetrapyrrolic pigment, meaning it has this very distinct four-ring chemical structure. Basically, it's the principal degradation product of heme, the waste left over from the natural breakdown of your aged red blood cells. Normally, your liver processes this waste product perfectly, just flushing it right out of your system. But if there's liver dysfunction, gallstones, or say, severe drug-induced liver injury, bilirubin starts building up in the body. This excessive concentration leads to hyperbilirubinemia. It deposits in your tissues and causes that classic yellowing of the skin and eyes we know as jaundice. Because of all this, monitoring this exact pigment is absolutely critical for evaluating a patient's liver health.
Section 2. The chemistry of detection.
Okay, so how do we actually find it in that tiny vial of blood? Let's step into the chemistry lab and see exactly how we interrogate this biological sample to reveal its secrets. Interestingly enough, bilirubin actually wears two different disguises in our bloodstream. First, we have conjugated bilirubin, which is also known as direct bilirubin. This form has already been processed by the liver, which cleverly combined it with glucuronic acid, basically a type of sugar acid to make it completely water-soluble. And because it dissolves in water, it reacts directly and easily with lab chemicals. But then we have unconjugated, or indirect bilirubin. Now, this is the raw form that hasn't been processed by the liver yet. It binds itself super tightly to albumin proteins in the blood, making it completely insoluble in water. To measure this stubborn, unconjugated form, we can't just run a simple test. We actually have to introduce specific chemical detergents, or accelerators, to break that albumin bond and force the bilirubin to finally reveal itself. Section 3. The Jendrassik-Grof method. To see how this chemical unmasking works in practice, let's walk through the complete experiment presented by Dr. Chem using the Jendrassik-Grof method. This is the gold standard protocol, and honestly, it plays out a lot like a high-stakes cooking show. Step 1. We add an accelerator, a caffeine benzoate solution. This acts just like a key, unlocking and liberating that stubborn, unconjugated bilirubin right out from its albumin protein shield. Step 2. We add the Diazo reagent, which contains sulfonylate acid and hydrochloric acid. Step 3, we mix it and let it incubate at a very controlled temperature, usually 20 to 25 degrees Celsius, for about 5 to 10 minutes. During this crucial window, the newly freed bilirubin couples with the active ingredient in the Diazo reagent to form azobilirubin, which is a highly visible red dye. Step 4, we add alkaline tartrate. This instantly stops the reaction and converts that red dye into a much more stable blue-green color. And finally, step 5, we place the sample into a machine called a spectrophotometer to measure the light absorbance. The intensity of that final blue-green color? It's directly proportional to the amount of total bilirubin hiding in the patient's blood.
Section 4. Manual versus automated processing.
Now, taking this leap from traditional test tubes to modern clinical science is just brilliant. In a manual workflow, a lab tech has to meticulously pipette the serum and the chemical reagents into separate tubes, manually set a timer for the incubation, physically transfer the cuvettes into the spectrophotometer, and then manually calculate the final results. You can imagine, it is an incredibly tedious and labor-intensive process. But switch to an automated workflow, and the entire landscape changes. Once the technician loads the patient's samples and bulk reagents into a clinical autoanalyzer, sophisticated robotic arms completely take over. The machine handles the micropipetting, manages the exact temperature incubation, and fires off the absorbance readings all at once. It then seamlessly reports the complex math straight back to the laboratory information management system. This automated processing is based on the exact same chemical principles of Dr. Chem's manual Diazo method, but it radically scales up how many patients a hospital can actually diagnose in a single day.
Section 5. Troubleshooting the assays.
But as with literally any scientific investigation, things don't always go perfectly. There are tricky variables that can totally compromise our evidence. As Dr. Kem highlights in the experiment, our highly tuned chemical test has a major weakness: hemolysis. Hemolysis is the rupturing of red blood cells, which spills hemoglobin directly into the serum sample before we even start testing. The data actually shows us something wild about this interference. If a patient starts with a true bilirubin level of 5.0 milligrams per deciliter, but their sample contains 3 grams per liter of ruptured hemoglobin, the test is only going to read 3.1. That is a massive 38% decrease in apparent bilirubin. The free hemoglobin basically acts like a fog, interfering with the light absorbance in the spectrophotometer. It artificially drives down the readings and completely deceives the diagnostic test. If a phlebotomist shakes a blood tube just a little too hard and ruptures those cells, the doctor gets the wrong diagnosis entirely. Another major villain in our story here is light and time. The numbers tell a really clear story. The total bilirubin concentration just plummets over an 8-hour period at room temperature. Bilirubin is incredibly light sensitive. In fact, if a fresh serum sample is accidentally left out on a lab bench exposed to direct light, the bilirubin molecules break down and degrade by up to 50% in just a single hour. This really emphasizes the absolute critical nature of sample storage. To get an accurate measurement, that blood sample needs to be protected from light in a dark container and tested promptly. If it isn't, the biochemical evidence literally vanishes into thin air before the test even begins. Section 6. The future of biosensors. Knowing these specific vulnerabilities in traditional spectrophotometry, scientists are designing a totally new way forward. The future of diagnostics is rapidly shifting toward electrochemical biosensors. Researchers are right now developing paper-based, screen-printed electrodes functionalized with silver nanoparticles. Why silver nanoparticles? Well, because they offer incredibly high charge transfer efficiency. That means they can conduct the electrical signals needed for the test lightning fast and with extremely high sensitivity. Instead of relying on bulky, expensive optical spectrophotometers that, as we just saw, can be easily fooled by hemolysis or light degradation, these biosensors use a tiny electrochemical reaction on a cheap piece of paper to instantly detect bilirubin in serum. This completely removes the need for complex sample preparation and provides a drastically cheaper, decentralized platform for the rapid detection of hyperbilirubinemia. Which brings us to a final question I want to leave you pondering today. How could instant, decentralized testing using nanotechnology transform global healthcare and jaundice management? Just imagine moving these highly sophisticated chemical investigations out of the million-dollar central laboratory and directly to a patient's bedside in a remote village, using nothing more than a disposable paper strip. By shrinking the lab down to the nanoscale, we aren't just improving chemistry, we're democratizing global health. Thanks for joining me on this explainer. Keep questioning the incredible science happening right behind the scenes, and we will see you next time.